Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice of radio, so today we are having a little bit of a look at a Alolan Marowak card. And I'm going to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, this one is a pretty good one, and I know I tend to be quite excitable about new cards, but you know what? I think this Alolan Marowak is worthy of my excitement, but it's alright, I'm not just going to ask you to take my word for it. I'm going to do a little video convincing you why I believe I'm right. Now, this is, of course, a fire Pokemon, Alolan Marowak, also a ghost Pokemon, could be a psychic type, but apparently not yet. Second Alolan Marowak, second psychic one that we've had. Being a fire type is, of course, pretty nice, because you've got the baby Volcanion, hey Nick, that you can use to accelerate energy. And for the short term, at least, you do have Scorched Earth to help you to get a few extra cards by discarding energy, although Scorched Earth is going to be rotating soon, and if I'm perfectly honest with you, this isn't a card that's just for fire decks, which is part of the reason I like it so much. You are obviously hitting weakness against things like Golisopod and Decidueye, both of which are pretty good and are expecting to see more play in the future, but of course you do have that weakness to water, which could be a bit of an issue. I mean, obviously you've got the whole Greninja thing at the moment, which is less than ideal, but you know I've said I'm quite a big fan of the new Empoleon and Glaceon cards, either of which could be quite good, and then if they become quite good, that could be a bit of an issue, because then you're, you know, weak to them. Hey ho, 120 HP is alright for a stage 1 non-GX Pokemon, could be a little bit worse, and retreat cost of 2 does suck. It is the worst retreat cost in the game, but there's nothing we can do about it, so I suppose we shouldn't spend too much time crying about it. But it is the attacks here, ladies and gentlemen, that I really like of Alolan Marowak. First of all, for 0 energy, it is an Alolan Pokemon, so they have attacks for 0 energy a lot of the time. You get to search your deck for 2 energy cards and attach them to your Pokemon in any way that you like. Now, this is kind of like Shining Mew, but it's only basic energy, not any energy, as Mew can do, and Mew is a basic Pokemon rather than a stage 1. Why does that make Alolan Marowak better than Mew? It's incredibly simple. Mew's got 30 HP, and when you use Mew to accelerate energy, you're going to be giving up a prize. You don't really have any choice about that. That's a little bit of a pain. Not to mention the fact that Mew does this for a psychic energy, meaning you can only play it in psychic decks, and it's got to be your energy attachment for the turn, whereas Alolan Marowak does it for 0 energy, which means it can be played in any deck and doesn't take your energy attachment for the turn. But of course, Mew is a basic Pokemon that can use it turn 1, Alolan Marowak is a stage 1. Since Mew came out, it's seen basically no play, and the reason is it's too fragile, too specific. Now, I know a lot of people aren't necessarily going to want to wait until turn 2 just to accelerate some energy, but this is one of those attacks that you use if you need to. Think of it like Turtonator GX's GX attack. That's never an attack you really want to use, using your GX attack for the game and accelerating energy, but sometimes you need it, so you use it. Same thing here. And of course, when I look at this attack of Alolan Marowak, one of the Pokemon that really comes to mind is Alolan Marowak, the one we've already had, which had a very similar attack to Turtonator's GX attack. 0 energy, attach 1 basic fire from your discard to your Pokemon for each Pokemon that your opponent has in play. So we've got a little bit of synergy here between the two Alolan Marowaks. Generally speaking, they're both good. The one we've had for a while now, the one that came out in Crimson Invasion, is better if you've got a lot of energy in the discard, because you're doing multiple energy, but it's really just for a fire deck. Whereas this one, you've got the advantage of being able to use it in any deck, and you're accelerating from the deck, so you don't need to worry about the discard, but it's only 2 energy. The fact that this is on a stage 1 makes me a little bit apprehensive, but generally speaking, this is a really good attack, and you don't need to use it. It's just a nice option. But even better than that, we have the second attack for a double colourless energy, and long-time viewers will know that any single energy attack is A-OK by me. You do 20 damage for each Alolan Pokemon you have in play. Yeah, we've seen a whole bunch of Pokemon like this recently. Obviously, we've got Zoroark that really comes to mind, and this is Zoroark's attack. The only real difference is, instead of Pokemon in play, it's Alolan Pokemon in play, but you're using a single prize Pokemon rather than actually having a GX. And let's face it, Fire is a better typing at the moment than Darkness in terms of hitting for weakness. Darkness doesn't really hit anything relevant for weakness at the moment. Fire, as I explained earlier, really does. Now, of course, the downside here is that when you're setting up, you're probably going to be using stuff like Tapu Lele. And every Tapu Lele you play is one fewer Alolan Pokemon you're going to play. That's a bit of a pain. In theory, you get a full bench of Alolan Pokemon, you're doing 120. Of course you are, like I've said, it's the same maths as Zoroark. Now, I suppose at this point I should mention there's a whole bunch of 130 HP Pokemon that will thwart you here. The aforementioned Volcanion, the aforementioned Greninja, both have 130 HP. That is a slight issue, but like I say, non-GX Pokemon, it could be a little bit worse. You could always play that Professor Kukui, but then again, that's not something you can do every single turn. But 120, double colourless energy, pretty gosh darn nice. Only if you're not playing stuff like Tapu Lele to the bench, but you can't have everything. What you could always do is use something like a Parallel City to get rid of all of your non-Alolan Pokemon and then start filling up your bench to do maximum damage as you go on. Always an option, something to bear in mind. But of course, if we go into the expanded format, and you should be expecting this because it's the same thing as Zoroark, we've got Skyfield. And at this stage, you've got a maximum 9 Pokemon in play, which means with a choice band, you'll be hitting 210, which is enough to KO stuff like Zoroark, even if you're not hitting for weakness. This is a pretty spectacular attack. Now, it's not quite as good as Zoroark's attack, and I'm not pretending it is. Alolan Pokemon is more restrictive than just Pokemon, and the big issue you're going to have, like I've said, is playing Tapu Lele. Now, in Expanded with Skyfield, it's actually easier, because at some point your opponent's going to replace your Skyfield, or play a Field Blower to get rid of your Skyfield, at which point you can just then make sure you only play Alolan Pokemon. But the damage output here for a single energy on a non-GX Stage 1 really is something to be excited about. And there's lots of Alolan Pokemon out there that we can play. Obviously, you've got Alolan Vulpix. In terms of setting up, Alolan Vulpix is one of the best Pokemon we have. 0 energy, search your deck for up to 2 Pokemon, put it into your hand. That's pretty nice. The other Pokemon which we could play in any deck, but obviously in this deck it becomes particularly nice. How about Alolan Muck? Alolan Muck comes in, Power of Alchemy, lovely ability that turns off the abilities of basic Pokemon, yours and your opponents. And if you're really trying to not rely on stuff like Tapu Lele, then Alolan Muck does become incredibly playable and incredibly fun. And between Alolan Vulpix to help you set up, Alolan Muck to slow your opponent down, and Alolan Marowak, all of a sudden you've got a lot of Pokemon in play which are looking pretty good as Alolan Pokemon and helping you to do that extra damage. The one real downside here is, do you have enough alternate type Alolan attackers? And the great thing here is, you can use any energy you like. The first attack's for 0 energy, the second attack's for a double colourless, so even if you don't have those Alolan attackers right now, Pokemon are clearly going to be continuing to release Alolan type Pokemon in the near future. Which means even if we don't have the perfect partners for this now, we're going to be getting more partners in the future, and this is when I think it becomes really, really good. Maybe you play it with Alolan Ninetales. You've got the GX, which is a pretty powerful attacker and uses double colourless energy, and then you've got the non-GX, which is really nice in terms of helping you wall those GX Pokemon. I'm not saying this is amazing now, but I'm saying there are a bunch of options now, but I am saying that this is only going to get better in the future. You could be playing some kind of Alolan Ninetales, Alolan Muck kind of hybrid, and I should mention Alolan Ninetales does evolve from Alolan Vulpix, which we've already said we're going to be playing. It's a single price Pokemon, it's got 2 good attacks, it can be splashed into any Alolan deck because of the energy cost, and the attack is basically Zoroark's, and we know that can do a lot of damage. No, it's not perfect because you've got to be playing Alolan Pokemon, but there is an Alolan deck here that does decent damage for a double colourless energy while turning off basic abilities, and goodness knows what else as more Alolan Pokemon get released in the future. This is a very exciting card to me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm giving it 4 Wassies. I think that is fair. But as always, you don't have to agree with me, so let me know in the comment section if you think it deserves more or less Wassie. Go nuts, but you know the important rule, be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and so on, you can do so over at patreon.com/PTCGRadio. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.